Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to the OBG show. I'm going to talk about two topics today. First of all, I'm going to talk about parsimony, and parsimony is about finding the simplest solution to problems or theories or anything, and also about racism and me. So do stay tuned. And the reason why I talk about this parsimony is lately I've been trying to get people a little bit involved in that whole Tartaria business, about the fact that America may have existed already and the Europeans went over and found, decimated the people, enslaved those who they captured, destroyed many other people, put people in asylums and all that. And part of it was a test. It was for me to see I wasn't outright testing. That came later. I didn't do it because of the test. It's an area I've been, studying for a while. But it was about how people somehow are not willing to take their minds into the past. It's about how people, you get into a conversation with people, they go, well, no, that's really simple or they'll say, well, they couldn't do that and they're using their current way of thinking alone. Now, we can only think with our current minds, but what I mean, they won't even try and expand what they know. And often when they put forward an argument, those arguments that they put forward are done purely with a current mind. They'll go like, well, how could they have built that with hammer and chisel? And it's like, they maybe didn't use hammer and chisels. Do you know what I mean? And so on. And even a good friend of mine, he's a thinker, I said, these train stations may have been repurposed. He goes, well, no, they must have been train stations because they've got high ceilings. And I'm like, give up. No one's trying to entertain anything new or thinking of new ideas. And it kind of does my head in a little bit. So what I thought I'd do is, hello, 1, 2. So what I thought I'd do is I'll just talk about parsimony. And I'm a bit negative to people, not any one person in particular, by the way. Just about the whole idea surrounding parsimony and in relation to how we think in current times, in relation to some of the modern days. And we keep getting the past wrong, and it's not an accident. And here's what I see as the problem. We walk around with modern brains soaked in modern assumptions, and then when we try to interpret people from 500, 1,000, 2,000 years ago, we just can't do it. We just say that these people were, they're just like us, but in worse clothes, or they weren't as smart as us. And the thing is, they was just as smart in their time and for their time. And I think that's lazy thinking. Now, Occam's razor gets dragged into this, all the time. The simplest explanation wins, in short, but people misuse it. They don't use it to cut through the nonsense. They use it to avoid doing the work, and that's what grates me. Because the simplest explanation to you isn't the simplest explanation in reality. That happens sometimes, but it's just one of those that fits your current view, and there's a big difference. Now, the trap that we get into projecting ourselves into the past is, it's everywhere. Like, I've done a show about colour and how people said that the ancient Greeks couldn't see blue, for instance, or people saying, oh, well, people were less intelligent back then, or, they believed in weird things because they didn't understand reality, and they understood it the best way they could. And it just sounds too bloody lazy, too neat, too clean, too simple to have these answers. But it's wrong, or at least, I think it's massively oversimplified. And the Greeks had blue pigments, Egyptians painted with it, Romans dyed with it, and the issue wasn't eyesight, it was language, categorization. I talked about that, and cultural framing as well. In yesterday's show, if you want to go and look back, about colour, and I forget what it was titled, but it's only one show back. So, people are afraid to do the harder work of understanding how different minds structure reality. We can't know exactly, but it's just like when people say, oh, I know why you've done that, why you're thinking that. You're still working to think about about how someone else's mind works. And I don't see why people can't apply it to this. They say, oh, they just couldn't see it properly, or the old myth that when Christopher Columbus, pulled up on the shores of the wrong place that he landed at, oh, those indigenous people couldn't see the ships because they hadn't seen one before. And those people obviously had ships of their own. Now, that's not parsimony. That's intellectual laziness dressed up as logic. And the real explanation is usually more complex. It really is that simple. Same biology, different language, different priorities, different symbolic systems, but that doesn't fit into a tweet or a quick debate. So people just flatten it. Occam's razor isn't be simple, it's don't be stupid in a nutshell, but people butcher this principle. It doesn't mean pick the easiest explanation and then move on. It means don't multiply assumptions beyond necessity. And those aren't the same thing. Now, I'll quickly explain Occam's razor. If you've got two explanations for the same thing, and one of them needs a stack of assumptions, moving parts, hidden forces, etc., and the other just works clean with what's in front of you, then you're going to go for the simpler one. Not because the simple one's always the best. It's because it's less likely that you're fooling yourself. And that's the key that most people miss. It's not saying that the world is simple. The world's messy. We know that. It's complicated. It's full of different layers and so on. But your explanation, that's where people start adding nonsense, patching holes with guesswork just to protect their original ideas. It's very commonplace. Occam's razor cuts that out, because Occam's razor forces you to ask, am I explaining this or am I dressing it up? And you see it everywhere. Now, I often see it in conspiracy theories, where people stack assumption on assumption when a basic explanation would do. Bad science always does this, clinging to complex models instead of admitting that they got it wrong. And simple doesn't mean shallow. It means that you're not hiding behind complexity. That's all it is. And that requires discipline. That's something that people are severely lacking in when it comes to debate or even conversation. Now, if your simple explanation quietly ignores culture, language, environment, and historical context, then it's not simple, it's incomplete. And incomplete explanations are dangerous because they feel correct. And that's where most bad takes come from. Okay? Now, it's also a matter of what we feed our brains, and this is one of my bugbears, and I don't mean to be too mean to people, but to me it's evident. A lot of people aren't sharpening their thinking, they're dulling it. Hours and hours of South Park, Family Guy, and endless clips and memes online. It's all noise. It's all interference. Now, I'm not saying these shows are evil or they're bad. They're funny and they're sharp in their own way. But if that's your main intake, then your brain gets trained for quick hits, surface-level satire, and it trains you for emotional reactions over deep analysis. Not that everything requires deep analysis, but this is also true for the reverse. Now, I spoke about this morning as I was walking down the road on a live, and it wasn't a boast. All I'm trying to say is I spent 80 hours on one particular podcast since January this year. I pulled out the a chart of how much I've watched, and I've watched 35 hours of podcasts a week since January this year, from January the 1st up until the present day. And it doesn't make me a better person in any way. I'm not saying it doesn't mean I'm smart, but what it does do, it fills my brain with knowledge. And I know people who have spent that much time, or less, 20 hours a week, watching cartoons. And this is how I think we've been made to regress. They're feeding adults cartoons. You watch cartoons when you're a child, and you can argue all day long on you, but it's a subject, it's really good, and so on. And the only reason you agree with it and think it's good, because it's simple stuff about simple mainstream pop culture references, and you're like, oh yeah, I get that, I understand it. And you start thinking that you understand issues because you recognise a joke about them. And that's not understanding, that's familiarity. And it really makes me angry. I don't get angry really, but I just, I just want to give up on people some days. And the end result of all of this is that it kills real debate, and that's what hurts me. I'm tired of people saying, yeah, like on South Park, every time they try to explain something to you. And now good debate, that requires patience, nuance, holding multiple possibilities at once, creating something new with what you have. And, there's plenty of other things that a good debate or even just conversation requires. But if your mental diet is all speed and punchlines, and then you lose that ability. So what happens? People fall back on fake simplicity again. Oh, they were primitive. That's just how it is. It's obvious. And that rattles my cage. No, it's not obvious. You've just trained yourself not to go deeper. And now Occam's razor gets weaponized again. Simple answer equals correct answer. No. Lazy answer equals comfortable answer. And there is a real cost. And this isn't just an academic thing. When you misunderstand the past or oversimplify human behavior, avoid complexity and fill all the spaces with assumptions, and then you take shortcuts, you become easier to manipulate in the present. And this is what I say. People mess around with you now, plant the seeds, and it affects us in the future. And this is because anyone can hand you a clean, simple narrative, and you'll take it without questioning, because you're used to the simple feed. And that's how bad ideas spread. Not because they're convincing, but because they're easy. So what do you do about it? Now, you, in particular, you don't need to become a philosopher overnight, but you do you do need to rebalance things. Mix your inputs. Don't just consume entertainment all the time. People just want to be entertained. Oh yeah, but it's my right to be entertained. And but you've watched every series they've put on ever since Netflix came out, and you're begging people for new ones online. Anyone's got any ideas of something to watch? And it's like, go and read a book, and sit with ideas that don't resolve quickly. So your mind has to work and question your obvious conclusions, because things come in easy, or things that seem simple aren't always the way forwards. Ask, what am I ignoring? Ask this every single time. Your eureka moments come too fast and too often for my liking. And people think that they're smart because of this, because they keep on getting these hits. Oh, wow, yeah. And it's like, but it's over nothing. And most importantly, stop assuming people in the past were stupid just because they weren't you. They weren't working with less intelligence. They were working with a different map of reality. And that's one of the key points, a different maps of reality. And there's no argument truly to say, oh, well, my map's different to yours, so that's why I do what I do. A lot of you who are doing this and are going for the quick hits are doing it simply you're not trying to be smarter people. I said it, fight me, okay? So, when I talk about a different map of reality, Occam's razor is a tool. It isn't a shortcut. And used properly, it strips away nonsense. And used badly, it strips away truth. And right now, most people, they're not making clean cuts. They're just hacking away at reality until it fits what they already believe. And that's what they want. And then they wonder why nothing makes sense anymore. I am the OBG.